Nirvana is living proof that some of the greatest bands in history weren't meant to exist. Kurt Cobain and Krist Novoselic met through mutual friends without any grand plan. The band cycled through several unstable drummers, living more on trial and error than on certainty. When Nevermind exploded and changed the course of rock, its success was completely unexpected, even for them. Ultimately, grunge was born almost without planning, and perhaps that is exactly why it was so authentic. Nirvana's second studio album, Nevermind, 1991, is one of the best-selling records of all time, with more than 30 million copies sold worldwide. Beyond the numbers, the work was responsible for shaping rock music and even pop culture in the early 1990s. Its more sober approach went against practically all the excesses of the 1980s. For many, it is as if Nirvana's history began in 1991. Far from it. The group was founded in 1987 by Kurt Cobain, vocals and guitar, and Krist Novoselic, bass, and even released an album, Bleach, in 1989. At the time of that record, the drummer wasn't even Dave Grohl, but Chad Channing. Dave Grohl was introduced to Nirvana in September 1990, after the breakup of his previous band, Scream. The connection happened through Buzz Osborne, lead singer of the Melvins and a mutual friend, who recommended Dave to Kurt and Krist. He joined the band with no major expectations. In a 2021 interview with Uncut, via Far Out, the drummer, who would become the leader of the Foo Fighters after Cobain's death, shared some reflections on what Nirvana was like before the big break. He mentioned that while many people around the group were excited about their future, he didn't think they would achieve such popularity. Everyone had these excited opinions. However, I used to think and say, well, it's kind of you to say that about the band, but there's no way this is ever going to take off. The musical landscape of the late 1980s led Grohl to think this way. In rock, it was the peak of hard rock, characterized by extravagant visuals and influences very different from Nirvana's. The trio actually saw themselves as part of the punk subgenre, which was at a low point in popularity at the time. You also have to remember what was popular in music at the time. It wasn't bands like us, so it seemed totally implausible that we would ever get close to that kind of success.
To me, Nirvana really was three people with some instruments that made a big noise, and we drove around in vans, and we played in clubs, and we did things like that. And then it became something else. I look at Nirvana much differently than someone else might. But, it's become such a big part of popular culture. So everywhere I go, I see it. I mean, I'll walk down the street and I'll see, a 12-year-old kid in a Nirvana t-shirt. And then I'll get in the car and a Nirvana song comes on. And then, every 5 years there's an anniversary and I talk about it. And I love talking about it. It's great. So it's kind of taken on this much larger life than it did when we were just three guys driving around in a van.
The Seattle scene. Although they became the most popular name in grunge, Nirvana was not the first from the Seattle movement to release an album through a major label. Back in 1989, Alice in Chains signed with Columbia Records, releasing their debut album, Facelift, the following year. Interestingly, the group led by Lane Staley, vocals, and Jerry Cantrell, guitar, was the one most identified with the hard rock scene still in vogue, though that was no longer reflected in their sound. However, it was with Nevermind that grunge truly broke through. To give you an idea, Facelift only achieved gold certification in the US 500,000 in 1991, just before Cobain and company burst into the mainstream. With the boost provided by the movement, the album eventually reached 3 million units sold in the country. The commercial success of Nevermind also gave momentum to other groups. Pearl Jam had released 10, their debut album, a month earlier, but sales only took off starting in 1992. Soundgarden, which released its third album Bad Motor Finger in October 1991, also gained traction, as did the Temple of the Dog project, which featured musicians from both of the aforementioned bands. Comment below if you like Nirvana. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.